Came across this article. Oklahoma public schools require biological sex affidavits for athletes. And I have stayed out of this for the most part. I try to avoid overtly political videos because, I don't want to paint myself into a corner. But that doesn't, of course, stop people from painting me in those corners anyway, but I don't mind. But at any rate, I thought maybe it's time for us to set politics aside and look at this thing from a reasonable standpoint. No matter how you feel about transgender people playing on girls' teams, set aside your politics and let me explain this from a different angle. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
So let me go ahead and at least read this so you'll know where we're coming from. Student athletes at Oklahoma public schools will be required to complete biological sex affidavits acknowledging their gender identity at birth before participating in sports for the 2022-23 academic year. The requirement runs in accordance with a new state law prohibiting transgender women and biological girls from playing on the same sports teams. In March, Oklahoma GOP Governor Kevin Stitt signed the Save Women's Sports Act, thus requiring sports teams throughout the college level to be grouped by an athlete's biological sex at birth. Well, enough of that. Now, where am I going to be coming from on this? Well, one of the things I love watching is women's softball at the University of Oklahoma. Of course, everybody knows I'm an Oklahoma fan, and you know what? The greatest team probably of all time in women's softball was this year's Oklahoma team. They won the national title. And the tickets for the next season are outrageously expensive. Oklahoma softball is extremely popular throughout the state. And you may wonder why. Well, obviously because they're good. That's part of it. But there's more to it than that. And I want to show you a short clip after they won the national title and ask yourself, do you see anything special?
It's just amazing to watch her.
So what's this about? Well, part of it is me rubbing into the other fans' faces that Oklahoma won the national title. Yay, got to do that a little bit. But I think that the reason why that softball is so important is because it's a girls' thing. I think that the fans show up because they see the camaraderie amongst the girl players, and that's something special. And by the way, it's not just Oklahoma. Those teams that did win the national title had also fans that showed up for that very reason. When they see all of the women out there hugging and crying and feeling good by being with their fellow women, there's something very special about it. It's like women's night out, like how the women go out, just them, maybe 4 or 5 of them, they go out and have a great time, and they don't need any guys around, right? It's their night. And I have a feeling that that is what's going on here. Now, by the way, you would think that the women's softball programs would be loaded with lots of feminists in the stands. After all, this is women's sports. But you'll notice there aren't any. Here's a typical shot. Now, when I say there aren't any, obviously a lot of these people are going to have feminist leanings, but you don't see the blue hairs here, or the green hairs, I should say. There's probably some blue hairs, but you don't see the green hairs. You don't see the nose piercings. You don't see any overtly feminist things going on here. The wokester feminist radicals don't show up for these games. And in fact, when you look at the stands, they're typically filled with ordinary people. And you'll notice there's probably as many men there as there are women. The men show up because they want to see the girls have a great time. And they want to cheer them on, of course. And you would probably expect that some of these men are probably a little bit chauvinist in their ways, but they drop it all when it comes to this because here are a bunch of women. They're out there having a great time. They're being friends with each other. They're celebrating, and it feels good. It feels great. It's a true celebration of womanhood. So here's another picture of the stands. Do you see any green hairs here? Do you see any like leftist slogans and feminist slogans? No, you see ordinary people. And I'm not saying that feminists aren't ordinary. What I mean is that these people here, whatever their political leanings, they've put them aside. They have shown up because they want to watch a game and they don't want the politics involved. This is a politics-free zone. And that is a problem for a lot of people in this country who just cannot stand any sign that people are having a good time without politics being injected into it. So at some point, sooner or later, they're going to try to get this politicized. And the way to do it is to get biological males playing on the team. Now, you think, well, so what? So a biological male decides to join the softball team. What's the big deal? Well, softball is largely a pitcher's war. It really does come down to which team has the best pitchers. And unfortunately for women, men can rifle the ball a lot faster than they can. This is a picture of Eddie Feiner. He's long passed away now, but he was the pitcher for the King and his court. Now, he was an exception. There's only one Eddie Feiner. There probably only will be one. But he could rifle a softball at over 100 miles an hour. And hitting him was nearly impossible. If he wanted to strike you out, he would strike you out. And he struck out over 100,000 people in his career, including the whole side of the LA Dodgers. Now, again, he's an exception, but if he can throw a softball at over 100 miles an hour, you can imagine what a male who's been practicing softball for a long time can do. Keep in mind also that trying to pick off a runner stealing second is going to be really, really difficult. Why? The men are that much faster. And so what you have is a sport that's going to be dominated by men. When you have a male pitching, you're going to have to put a male up there to hit off of him because the men can swing the bat around a little bit faster. But the main point is this. The camaraderie that I was talking about, the womanhood and the celebration gets undercut when there's a dude out there. All of a sudden, it's no longer ladies' night out, and everybody knows it. You know what? I'm sorry. The person may call himself a woman. He may put on a wig, whatever. It's a man. Everybody knows it. If it wasn't a man, nobody on either side of the political aisle would be making a big deal out of it. So I want to let you think about this thought. Suppose that I was truly misogynist. Suppose I truly hated women and I hated women's sports, right? I mean, I want to watch football and real manly things and not female sports. What would I do? I would find some way to get the men on the women's teams. That's the only way you really can destroy them. Remember, Title IX's come in, so you can't destroy them by undercutting their funding. They have to be funded at certain levels. And in a sense, that's really helped women's sports. For example, softball has really taken off in popularity, and that's a great thing. But if I can get men on the team, then I can erode all that they worked for. So here's another picture, the celebration dance. These are women having a great time with their female companions. And can you imagine if there's like 4 or 5 dudes out there wearing wigs, what that would do to this? It would destroy it. It would destroy the mystique, the atmosphere. And again, if I wanted to destroy women's sports, I would do exactly that. I would find a way to get men on the team. So I hope I was able to keep the politics out of this. It's not about politics. It's about what's best for women's sports. So if you're a biological male and you want to join the women's softball team, don't destroy something just because you feel like you want to show your power. You want to score political points. It's not worth it. Let them have their game. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.